Please set your phone to mute. Thank you again. And now it's about 9:30. I will start 1 minute earlier. Distinguished guests, media friends, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm Shirley Ren, Director of CCG Publishing Center. Now it's about 9:30. Our great honor to host this book launch and the roundtable event in CCG headquarters. Thank you all for your attendance. My special thanks first goes to all our contributors. Actually, without your wonderful articles, we couldn't make happen today's book release event. And my special thanks also goes to Springer Nature Publishing Group and my team in CCG. Without all your support, it's impossible to make this book reach to our global readers. Now this book can be downloaded on Springer Nature official website, totally free for global readers. My sincere thanks also goes to our honored guests, media friends, and audience online for today's event. First, please let me to introduce our distinguished today. William Archer, Editorial Director from Springer Nature Publishing Group. William is online from Singapore now. And Craig Allen, President of the US-China Business Council. Wang Barber, Global Chair of KPMG's Global China Practice and Chairman of Australia Chamber of Commerce in China. Joseph Cash, Policy Analyst of China Britain Business Council, CBBC, and Agnes Cui, Vice President of Government Affairs from IBM China. Dong Ping, Vice President of Herbalife China, CCG Senior Council Member. Guido Giacconi, Vice President of EU Chamber of Commerce. Jerry Guo, Vice President for Government Affairs, Qualcomm China, CCG Senior Council Member. Ben Harburg, CCG Vice Chair. Heido Kawabuchi, Counselor of Embassy of Japan to China. Leng Yan, Executive Vice President of Daimler Great China, CCG Senior Council Member. Leona Li, Regional Director of China from Springer Nature Publishing Group. Roberta Lipson, Founder and CEO of the United Family Hospital. Liu Chang, Vice President of Knorr Brahms Asia Pacific Limited. Steve Lynch, Managing Director of British Chamber of Commerce in China. Matthew Maglis, Senior Vice President of China Operations, US-China Business Council. Martin Mueller, Chairman at the Swiss Chinese Chamber of Commerce. Marinda Wang, Manager Director, ETS China, CCG Senior Council Member. Yanping Wang, former General Manager of Public Affairs, LinkedIn China. Jörg Wuttke, President of the EU Chamber of Commerce in China. And Gloria Xu, Country Manager of Albemarle and Vice Chair of American Chamber of Commerce in China. Thank you all for your attendance. Besides representatives from Airbus China, AstraZeneca China, Canon China, Diagnostics Roche, Dow Jones, DSM, Elonet Information Technology, Estée Lauder, Gap, GE Healthcare, GE China, Herbalife China, HSBC China, Japan External Trade Organization, IMAP Biopharma, LinkedIn China, Mexican Chamber of Commerce in China, Nestle, Nike China, Novartis China, Siemens Healthineers, Starbucks China, United Imaging, and Volkswagen also present at today's event. You all are warmly welcomed, and I hope you will get inspiration from this event. Besides, friends from more than 30 medias, including Xinhua News Agency, Channel News Asia, Wall Street Journal, Caixin, China Fox, News China, and China News Service, to name just a few, also present at this event. You all are warmly welcomed, and I hope you would like to give more exposure to this valuable book. Last but not least, our series editors and volume editors, Dr. Wang Huiyao, CCG President, and Dr. Miao Li, CCG Secretary General, supervise the whole process from the book planning to publishing. We sincerely appreciate your time devoted to this project. Thank you all. Now a short video is ready for all our guests. Please watch the large screen. Yeah, we prepare a short video about this book and can give all our guests an overview. Excellent. Thank you for enjoying this video. Actually, we finally have 24 authors for this book. After this event, we can share this video with all our authors. And now, let me give the floor to the series editor and volume editor, Dr. Wang Huiyao, to give the opening remark and launch this book. Dr. Wang, please.
Okay, thank you, Shirley. And I know that Craig Allen is online, and also we have our Singapore Springer also regional head William is also online, and also of course Yuger from European Chamber of Commerce. So we have friends from Glory from AmCham, and friends from Japan, from many multinationals. So this is actually a great event that we're having. CCG is organizing today in conjunction with our annual. We have a series of books coming up, and this is one of the most important one as well. Is basically it's called Transition and Opportunity Strategy for Business Leaders on Making Most of China's Future. So, so I'm very glad to welcome all of you. Of course, we have also many media friends. We are having this online, and so this is really a great occasion that we all gather here. So on behalf of Center for China and Globalization, and also as the series editor myself and Dr. Miao, we really appreciate our thanks to the Spring Nature, where is a well-known international publisher, and to publish this book worldwide, and also that we are actually very grateful for our contributors, precisely our many of you are sitting here today, but also many of them maybe watch this online. So we are really pleased to introduce this book. So I'll be give a very quick rundown of this book, and then we will hear all the great thoughts and ideas from our friends here today, and also from Singapore. So this is a book that is actually CCG's edited for the last year, and we just published. And this book actually, trying to create a balanced global perspective by gathering the views of highly, influential policy scholars, practitioners, and opinion leaders. So this is a series book of China and globalization. We have actually published 4 books of those, and this is the 3rd book. Actually, altogether we have 5 books, and this is the 3rd book. The first book is about consensus of conflict, that is already published. And then we have a 2nd book coming up about the Asian 21st century by Kishore Mahapati, and then this is 3rd book, Transition and Opportunity. The strategies for business leaders on making the most of China's future. So this is really a great timing. As we also know that this week we are actually celebrating the Sino-US, Nixon, 50 years ago visit to China, and also the Shanghai Communique. So exactly this week, 50 years ago, Nixon's visit to China has really changed the world, and that's how China also become more and more open. And then now, we welcome all the friends from not only from US but Europe, Japan, and in many parts of the world. So this is really a reflection of this book, a very unique one. Probably for the first time we have a book like this that really contributed by people in the market, on the ground, and also really look at the future of China. So we have this book brings together a diverse group of CEO and senior executives from leading multinational operating in China, as well as leaders of foreign trade associations and chambers. And also, we are really putting up this book at a very interesting time, challenging time, defined by public health threat, rising populism, nationalism, and uncertainty, and of course also US-China relationship. So I think this is a really interesting book, and so this book actually going to cover quite a few areas. I'm not going to go into detail of that, but basically we see that the world has been divided now. There's a national post-pandemic challenges. There's also regionalization and deglobalization, and also of course the decoupling that we've been seeing. So how we can really work on that. And so China has also started 14 years, 5 years plan. And we have seen the new strategy, dual circulation. So for multinationals, how to really handle that, it's really another challenge. And also, so I think multinational needs a larger voice And in this, we're actually closing to the post-pandemic era. We hope that we can really work on together with our multinational friends here, really to promoting the openness and also globalization of China. So CCG basically as a platform, we are a bridge, we are a platform to really meet the challenges we are trying to facilitate. We want to be a channel, so that's why we launched this series book. And so I'm glad that this is very unique about this book is that we have first time actually leaders of chambers of commerce, influential chamber leaders like Craig Allen, which leads a very large U.S.-China Business Council, and my friend Hugo Wittertate, leads European Chamber for many years, and also we have many CEOs, actually influential Fortune 500 companies, and of course we have researchers on the global, multinationals. So this is really a very good composition of all the key players actually in the Chinese market. So we really want to let them come out to say what are the opportunities, what are the challenges, what are the transition, how we can work better, and how we can really capture the growing potential of the market. 400 million middle class and probably getting to 500 million very short time. And so this is really a fantastic book. So basically we have 9 leaders of business chambers. So 9 heads of business chambers contributed to this, coming from Europe, EU, American, British, France, Swiss, Brazil, so 9 chamber leaders contributed to this book. And then we have 8 CEOs and senior executives from leading multinational, including Airbus, Daimler, DSM, Michelin, LinkedIn, and many more, Bain, and so there's ETS, this man, so quite a number of them, Michelin, and this is really very good. I think you have the chamber perspective, you have a multinational perspective, and also we have some researchers, companies like really has deep knowledge on China, of course from PwC, KPMG, Accenture, Roland Berger, and Bain and companies like that. So this is a well composition. 9 chambers, 8 multinationals, had 7 business consulting groups on that. So this book we have actually divided into quite a few parts. The first part is the big picture, how the significance of the international business, a roadmap to bolster EU-China relations, and of course, candor, wisdom, and persistence, the keys to stabilize the all-important economic relation between China and the US, and impact of decoupling. So it has a wide-ranging and all aspect of this book. And also we have trading, treading the needle, US Silicon Valley's business in China, growing UK-China trade with the multinational frame of Asia-Pacific region, continued clear and practical reform policy will create a positive environment for French company in China, China's growing presence in Latin America and like that. So there's some general overlooking, and of course also the second part of the book we have analysis of advices, recommendations, key opportunity for China to lead globalization 3.0. 5 reasons for the confidence in the China's economic future and transition opportunity, investing in and benefiting from China new developing paradigm. So you see, there's a lot of opportunities, confidence, and analysis, and also continued acceleration of the reform of China's capital market that also needed, and China deglobalization and multinational. What does the next decade hold for the multinational companies from the east to west? So really wide ranging, and can Chinese giants become multinational companies? So this is really a very interesting book, and also of course the part 3 of this book is really about the case studies. How successful and what are they are doing a multinational Airbus, a solid, reliable, and trustworthy long-term partner to China. The remarkable rise of the premier automobile in China, and which is contributed by the CEO of Mercedes. Being Chinese in China to ensure win-win solution, Michelin's goals for development in China. And of course, another look at the digital economy using the LinkedIn economy as a case. So have many cases like that. There's also about how we can, there's also an article from Indian, company about why adaptive learning organizations are better placed to succeed in future in China. And of course, international education testing, a development in the post-COVID China context, 5 trend. So this is about service, multinational service in China. And of course, DSM brings brighter lives to China, shaping China's future together, and opportunity and the challenges in the health and nutrition industry with the rise of younger consumers. Another company that really contribute. So all those things actually we have many examples. We have Daimler's chair in China, global CEO, vice chair. And so Airbus had, I'm not going into details. So I have the book, and you can download that actually free online. And I can, so we have actually quite a few books that had a very good record. The first book, we have almost 200,000 downloads, 150 and 200,000. And the second book that the Asian 21st century, actually we have almost close to 1 million downloads worldwide. So it's incredible. And also we hope that we will have a good expectation for this book, and we hope our publisher can also support us in that way. So in order to save time, I'm not going into the details, but I see you would take the, you are quoted here as well. So that basically you are saying European companies are ready to deepen their position in China if given the right opportunities. Exactly, we are looking for the right opportunities, of course. And so there's a French chamber. There's many people. I'm not going to cite all those details. So basically, I want to conclude is that foster new opportunities in the crisis, seeks new horizons, and in a shifting landscape, create a better post-COVID world together. So really, once again, I want to thank all our authors. I want to thank the publisher and also multinational business community in China for contributing to this book, and hope this book will be really a great mechanism, a great communicator to really deepen the understanding of how multinational work in China and how to grasp the huge opportunity and the huge development that China presents. So that's all my talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Wang. Thank you for introducing to us the China and the Globalization series and the Transition and Opportunity book. Thank you so much. Now let me invite Mr. Ben Harburg, CCG Vice Chair, to give his remark.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the kind introduction, and congratulations first off to Henry and Mabel on this latest publication entitled Transition Opportunity, Strategies from Business Leaders on Making the Most of China's Future. On behalf of the CCG Business Council members, it's my honor to welcome you here today and share a few perspectives. As many of you here in the room today, we are often called upon by our home governments, our home business communities, and certainly our home media to provide transparency and shed light on the conditions both for foreign and domestic businesses operating here in the Chinese market. To this end, publications like this are critical in shedding light on the conditions and the case studies for businesses operating successfully on the ground here in China. The book taps into the insights of a broad array of CEOs and other senior business leaders operating in multinational companies on the ground here in China. The edited volume presents readers with both the potential challenges and opportunities presented by China's economic transition, and in an era of increasingly defined by pandemic threats, rising populism, protectionism, and certainly a highly turbulent and uncertain US-China political dynamic. Transparency and data-driven counter-narratives to the stereotypes often developed and misconceptions promoted within foreign media as well as business communities are critical to understanding and operating effectively here in China. And certainly many of the success stories for businesses operating in China and multinationals operating here in China are present in this room today. The book provides fitting examples of how individual companies have worked to adapt and thrive in China and make the most of this period of transition and opportunity. It brings together perspectives and offers invaluable lessons on doing business in China. Despite the uncertainties and challenges facing both China and the world today, the fact that so many experienced business leaders remain upbeat and enthusiastic about China's growth and prospects in the role of the global economy is very heartening to me. Certainly amongst my own business community, that of the financial and investor group, there is a widening expectation and celebration of opening up within the Chinese community and increased opportunities for businesses as we seek to invest and engage with our Chinese counterparts. The world center of economic growth is gradually shifting west to east. China is certainly one of the largest and most dynamic markets in the world today, and its vast size, growing wealth, changing demographics, and economic transformation offer exciting opportunities for international companies. As a foreign investor in China, I'm also acting as a bridge and messenger between China and the world, narrowing this information gap and nurturing closer business ties between both countries. Particularly critical in this era of pandemic, quarantines, and border shutdowns are the views of business leaders like those in the room today to shed light via direct experiences on what's going on the ground here. Because as we know, this divergence of viewpoints and certainly increased level of misunderstanding is being exacerbated by the fact that many foreign business leaders, as well as politicians, have been unable to touch ground here in China for several years. This time 50 years ago, President Nixon was visiting China for the first time after the founding of the People's Republic of China. The Shanghai Communique was signed on February 28th and marked the beginning of American multinationals and multilateral adventure into the Middle Kingdom. 50 years on, I do believe that the success of American companies in China remains the ballast for this bilateral relationship. And I know that view is shared in Washington, where political leaders, including our incoming American ambassador to China, believe that it is the business community that is going to have to be responsible for driving a pragmatic and constructively engaged relationship between the two markets. CCG is a leading internet independent think tank here in China and has been very friendly to the business community and also very open about inviting dialogue amongst all ideological groups on both sides of the political aisle. CCG is committed to facilitating policy communications between the business community, policymakers, academics, and other experts around the world so they can develop a nuanced understanding of this period of transition and opportunity for forward-thinking strategic decision-making. As vice chair of the CCG Business Council, I hope that by sharing this book more widely, we can inspire my peers and our peers, fellow investors, business owners, senior executives, practitioners, and others to explore business opportunities here in China. I thank all the contributors to this book, many of whom are here with us today, and thank you for support for this robust effort at CCG. With warmest welcome to all participants, I look forward to hearing your thoughts. It's critical that we in this room act as ambassadors to the outside world to shed light on the real conditions existing on the ground here in China today, as these misconceptions continue to exacerbate with this space of physical separation between the two markets. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hubbard. Your speech is very inspiring. Thank you so much. And now, please let me invite Ms. William Archer from Springer Nature Publishing Group to give a remark from the publisher's perspective. Hi, hello, William. Yeah, it's
hello,
time
Shirley.
for you. Yeah.
Good. Everybody can hear me well, I suppose. Yeah.
Yes, we can hear.
Good. So good morning, everybody. My name is William. I'm editorial director for business economics, politics, and law books at Springer Nature. I'm based in Singapore. I'm thrilled to join you all today to celebrate the launch of the third volume to publish in the book series China and Globalization, which we at Springer Nature are publishing in partnership with CCG. The two series editors, Wang and Lu Miao, also serve as volume editors for this new book, which is entitled Transition and Opportunity Strategies from Business Leaders on Making the Most of China's Future. The first two volumes in this series, Consensus and Conflict, an edited work compiled by Wang and Alistair McKee, and the second book, The Asian 21st Century, an authored volume composed of essays by Kishore Mahbubani, both set the stage for prospects of better global cooperation and multilateralism in a rapidly evolving economic and geopolitical landscape across the world. Wang Weiyao and Alistair McKee put together in Consensus and Conflict a broad and diverse team of contributing authors, including some very renowned scholars and professionals, to take on the challenges the world faces today. And the essays in Kishore Mahbubani's book also address many of those same themes. With this new volume, Transition and Opportunity, the series moves from a more general international relations landscape into the realm of international business and the role multinationals play within the economic and geopolitical context the first two volumes of China and Globalization introduce. We witnessed here again a remarkable team of contributing author experts from highly diverse backgrounds with very solid experience in international business and a nuanced understanding of the business landscape in China. These experts take on the important issues multinationals face today, and they work on them in well-versed essays about business relations China has with many key business partners across the planet, including the EU, the UK, the US, and Brazil and Latin America, to name a few. One also gets in-depth insight into the various aspects of big tech and what they mean for healthy business relationships between big tech multinationals and the future of international business and trade. The automotive and aerospace industries and their future development in China are also covered in engaging contributions from experts in this book. In their preface, the editors provide a brief overview of a historical timeline of the roles multinationals have played in China since the opening up more than 40 years ago. And they stress the significance of CCG's efforts to establish a network of international chambers of commerce with the goal to facilitate effective communication between international and local chambers of commerce to promote further growth and development in China. I congratulate the editors, as well as the contributing author experts, on the release of this new and important volume. Like the first two volumes in China and Globalization, I expect this book to be a success as well. Thank you very much.
And thank you, William. Thank you very much. Actually, from submitting the book proposal to finally publishing this book online and printed it in hard copies, we are greatly supported by Springer Nature's office in Beijing. So I want to invite Dr. Liana Li from Springer China to give more introduction to its cooperation with CCG in publishing, especially your support to our job. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks, Shirley. Actually, I should thank you for your excellent work. Well, Springer Nature is one of the world's largest academic publisher. Our job is publishing scientific books and journals and distribute this knowledge globally. So I've been working in this company for 10 years. Over the 10 years, we had 3 CEOs, and every single of them put a very specific strategic focus on China, because China stands for opportunities, stands for growth and fast change. It's amusing for us to see how, although all 3 CEOs say China has a strategic focus, and each one interpret them differently. But anyway, and now that 40% of the scientific outputs that we publish are from China, and these are basically due to the fast change and upgrading of science and technology in China. So our job is to work with scientists and researchers to publish their content. It's unimaginable for our editors to work with such a group of high-level business leaders and practitioners to organize such a comprehensive content. So in this regard, for the publishing of this book, I'm deeply grateful to Dr. Wang, Dr. Miao, and Shirley's great support and contribution. They are simply always able to so elegantly and gracefully put together such a impressive team of authors and tackle all the challenges with a good manner, which our editors will never be achieved. So thank you again, and for the CCG team for completing this another wonderful book. And also, a lot of our book authors, journal article authors, talk about transition in China. And very often, for example, in a sociological context, the transition is still from agriculture, traditional society to an industrialized and contemporary society. And in many respects, I think we have good reasons to believe that this part of the transition is still going on, is far from completed. Well, in this book, we're also talking about transition into yet another new stage. We're talking about industrialization 3.0 and globalization 4.0. So that's a completely new world for us. In this, I believe both stage of the transitions are still very true and still undergoing. So no matter which part of the transition we're looking at, these are associated with opportunities. These are opportunities not only for the corporates and for businesses. It's also opportunities for the Chinese society and the Chinese people. Anyway, I'm fascinated reading these contents and to think about what the multinational companies, their operations has been bringing to the Chinese society, and openness, transparency is certainly one of the most important factors. I'm not an expert in this field, so I'm not going to linger for too long and hand over the floor to Shirley and for all the speakers today. Thank you again for your great support.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lee, and I wish our cooperation in publishing field will last forever. Yeah. And now I invite another important guest, Mr. Craig Allen, President of the U.S.-China Business Council, to give a special address. Mr. Allen is also the contributor to this book. So it's time for you.
Well, good morning to everyone. Firstly, let me congratulate Henry and William and everyone else involved in publishing this important book. And let me just say how proud I am to be among the contributors to the book. And thank you for this opportunity to say a few words tonight. My essay in the book focuses on how trade with China benefits the United States, particularly how doing business in China supports American jobs. There's a common misconception that US companies' expansion of trade with and investment in China has led to fewer American jobs. Many in the United States, including some lawmakers, believe this to be true. In reality, cultivating a strong trade relationship with China has actually boosted the American economy and employment. In the most recent year of full data available to us, US exports to China alone supported nearly 1 million American jobs directly. Indirectly, probably about 3 or 4 million. For the US-China Business Council members, 95% of our companies report profitability for their investments in China, which means more dividends repaid to shareholders in the United States, greater cash flow and capital to reinvest in businesses, of course, including R&D functions in the United States, then it means competing in one of the world's most competitive and dynamic markets. I will argue that if an American company cannot be a leader in China, they cannot be a global leader. All of that strengthens American companies and makes us more competitive globally. Globally competitive companies mean greater strength at home. With this in mind, let's take a look at how the trade war impacted American jobs. Multiple studies and anecdotal evidence confirm that Americans paid the price for tariffs on imported Chinese products. A report that the US-China Business Council commissioned from Oxford Economics found that 245,000 American jobs were lost at the height of the trade war. Keep in mind that was before COVID-19 shocked the global economy. So let me be clear. Chinese industrial policy and trade practices pose serious problems for US and European and Japanese and other companies. Indeed, for the global system as coordinated by the WTO. And USCBC works to address these problems, but we must be honest about the impacts of the tariffs and escalating tensions between the United States and China, and the loss in employment and American corporate competitiveness. If we fast forward to today, the future of US-China engagement under the Phase 1 agreement is very unclear. Tariffs remain at a near all-time high, and bilateral relations are in a tenuous state. The United States recently released its Indo-Pacific strategy with a regional economic framework to follow, but it's unclear what this framework will entail. And most certainly, it does not include a active or a constructive or a positive engagement with China. At this juncture, therefore, I'd like to make 3 recommendations for transitions for the US-China relationships drawn from my essay. The first is that the United States and China really should reestablish a formal mechanism to discuss macroeconomic and trade issues. While I was pleased to read in USTR's recent report to Congress that it continues to engage with China on the Phase 1 agreement and outstanding trade issues, a more comprehensive, regular, and transparent set of communications is sorely needed. And at least this would allow both sides to better understand the priorities and concerns and decisions of the other. Talking is better than not talking. And without it, both countries appear to assume the worst of the other. And when it comes to trade specifically, perhaps the two sides could use a CPTPP as a framework or an agenda for the negotiations. Second, the United States and China should both move to reduce or completely eliminate tariffs. We know that the tariffs are unpopular in both countries, and that the full removal of tariffs would really create economic opportunity in both countries. Our research shows that reducing average tariff rates to 12% could create up to 145,000 American jobs, and that full removal would create yet more. I have to admit, it would be difficult for President Biden in an election year to reduce tariffs without some form of commensurate move on the Chinese side. This is especially true given the Chinese side's inability or unwillingness to fully meet the phase one purchase obligations. But we need to address the tariffs. There is a danger that they could become permanent, and that would be unacceptable. Third, we need clear signals from both governments that trade and investment and people-to-people engagement that does not impact national security is welcome and encouraged by both governments. As I'm sure you know, the vast majority of interactions between our two countries are mutually beneficial for all sides, promoting prosperity and innovation and human progress. I worry that an overemphasis on national security and an expansion of the definitions of national security will have a chilling effect on the very positive parts of the bilateral relationship. That is not to say that there are not real problems with national security. I would like to note that we are looking forward to progress in China's industrial policies, in domestic content preferences, to the prioritization of self-sufficiency over reliance on global trade as defined by the WTO. We look forward to further clarifications on data security and the privacy regime that currently threatens to segregate China's data ecosystem from the rest of the world. And we hope that there will be some way to address standards setting that appears to discriminate against foreign countries. We hope that discriminatory treatment against imported products and even joint venture products in China will be addressed. And we hope that a level playing field for both imported products and for FIEs in China will ultimately prevail in China. It is in China's interest to create a level playing field, and there is certainly a lot of work to be done. So let me just summarize and say, as I look to transitions, there are three transitions that I would love to see. And the first one is the resumption of a bilateral dialogue between China and the United States. The second transition I would like to see is a pathway forward to getting rid of the tariffs, or at least reducing them enormously. A third transition I would like to see is not using national security as an excuse for protectionism, and a direct addressing in a positive manner of the residual market access issues that all foreign companies face in China. And with that hope for these three transitions, let me say again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Your article and your speech are both wonderful. And now let me invite Mr. Jörg Wuttke, the president of the EU Chamber of Commerce in China, to give a speech. Mr. Wuttke is also the contributor to this book.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me, Mabel and Henry. Great job. It's wonderful. And I hope that our book will be downloaded 2 million times so that it spreads our fame. First of all, it's wonderful to follow Greg. Last time I was in Europe was in February 2020, and I met Greg in Berlin. And the two of us on the side were very busy trying to organize medical equipment and masks to be shipped to Wuhan, and how times have changed. How times have changed also now. A couple of times you heard 50 years Nixon in China. And I was privileged to have dinner with Henry Kissinger in October in '89. And I said to him, yeah, what was your biggest worry when you were here in Daoitai in Beijing? He said, well, it was my shirt. Because I just realized when I gave it to the laundry that all my shirts had a label in the back that says made in Taiwan. So I'm very privileged also that it's Springer Publishing Trust, because it is headquartered in Heidelberg in Germany. It's my hometown. And it's wonderful to be a part of that success story. They have been globalizing extremely well. So wonderful. Myself, I have my own anniversary this year. Exactly 40 years ago, I arrived here by train from Heidelberg, as a matter of fact, and had been privileged to be part of the biggest economic comeback story the world has ever seen. Now, the European Chamber is an organization across China with 9 offices and 1,800 members. And of course, we are the advocacy. We are complementary to the bilateral chambers. And I must say that we don't match the output of CCG. The number of books that Henry brings out is just mind-boggling. But we match it by size. We have a position paper that comes out always in September. It's a magnificent 430 pages. Last September, we had 900 recommendations for the Chinese government. And the size and the number of recommendations just tells you how difficult still market access is in China. So I hope that this book can contribute to the fact that the leadership realizes that it's better to win with us than rather to exclude us. Now, the right conditions are covered there. I mean, the right conditions are obviously the growth potential of China. And in my daytime job, I'm heading a German chemical company, BASF. And we have already put a couple of billions into the ground, but we have now under construction a massive plant in Guangdong province. We signed it in 2018. It's a $10 billion investment. And tellingly enough, we were permitted to have that as a 100% entity, which was a big leap forward. We hope that China will not constrain equity concerns, foreign partners with Chinese, but leave it up to the investors how they structure this best. So commitment is definitely on our side. And we will start the first unit in Zhanjiang next month. First of all, of course, trade does well between Europe and China. I think we're the largest trading partners. But at the same time, if you look behind the numbers, you can actually see that China is benefiting greatly from the consumption of the European population. Of course, China produces exactly what you need in a lockdown position. And exports, in particular the last quarter of 2021, rose from China to Europe by 30%. And it's, I guess, about 1.2, 1.3 billion euro a day. European exports to China have actually leveled out. 2 of 3 months of the last quarter were actually negative, and 1 month was 4% growth. So basically, we're flat in our exports. I don't know if we became less competitive, if we have more market restrictions, but it's something to ponder. So if you hear that we're the biggest trading partners, it just means that China actually trade-wise depends more than 2 times more as much on Europe as we depend on China. As a matter of fact, just because Martin is here from the Swiss Chamber, 5 years ago, we exported more as European Union to Switzerland than into the People's Republic of China. So trade is something we definitely have to improve. Trade combines people, gives choices, and we hope that there will be something. Now, 2 words on transitional opportunity. I think the big one on transition definitely is pandemic. When transit in Europe and other places from having this as a pandemic into looking at COVID as a disease, as a normal flu in a way. In my own country, Germany, yesterday we had 200,000 cases. And I think about 20-25% of our population already had COVID. We have very good vaccine. BioNTech comes from Mainz in Germany. And so we have reached a very high level of herd immunity. Other countries actually did more or less the same. So they will come back to normal at one stage. And the challenge, of course, will be for China having zero tolerance. There is no herd immunity. Vaccine, which is more on the weak side. There will be a massive challenge how to transit and how to exit that mode. I have stopped lobbying the Chinese government on opening the borders. I think personally it would be irresponsible for China to open the borders at this stage because the protection level, the immunity level in the population is way too low. And we really have to step up and do more in letting mRNA into the country, develop faster the Chinese vaccine, as well as try to make sure that the country can actually eventually safely open. But we will not get rid of COVID. Let's not kid ourselves globally. Then, of course, in opportunities, well, in the position paper in September, we had a very good study from the World Bank in there. That shows how 4 economies were developing over the last 40 years of opening up. And you can see that actually Japan, Taiwan, Korea, and People's Republic from the year of opening up, which of course Japan 50s, Taiwan 60s, 70s for Korea, and late 1980 for the Chinese economy, actually the growth model was similar. It's very telling that actually these other economies grew at the same space, at same pace. So nothing unusual there, but of course China's everything is times 1.4 billion, and that makes all the difference. But what we also see from the chart is that China has been falling behind GDP per capita in PPP terms from the other 3 economies while they were in their 40th year. And that's something that worries us. We want China to succeed. And the World Bank did 3 studies for us, 3 scenarios. One is modeling through, basically doing what China has been doing over the last years, a little bit opening there, otherwise staying autark in other areas, as well as one scenario where China does self-reliance. The theme of our position paper, China actually trying to withdraw from the world. We also published a paper on decoupling last year, something that worries us. And then the third scenario was China opening up, linking up, be more in globalization. And the 3 scenarios clearly show that in all 3 areas, China will grow. There is no China slow grow mode in there, but there are 3 distinctive features. One is, of course, China, that last year was $16,800 PPP terms, and China, in the worst case, will double that by 2050. And the difference is it will just about reach Japan levels in about 20 years from now, but Taiwan and Korea will be far away, GDP per capita. And then you have the modeling through. That means that sort of they go above Japan, but stay behind the other 2. And then China opening up, globalizing, actually it takes off like a rocket. It overtakes the Japanese figures very fast. It reaches at one stage the GDP per capita of Taiwan economy, as well as then eventually bypasses Korea. So it's in China's choice. And of course, we as business people would like to see China having the bigger and stronger growth pattern. The difference between the best case in 2050 and basically the self-reliance case is the staggering $22,500 per capita that actually China misses out if they go for self-reliance. 22,500 times 1.4 is a hell of a lot of demand missing out for all of us there. So the way it's China's choice, it's not our choice. We recommend opening up, and we are very happy to do this in the center of globalization, where Henry is actually advocating this. Thank you very much.
So now let me invite Mr. Wang, Global Chair of the MD's Global Practice and Chairman of Australian Chamber of Commerce in China, to share his thoughts. I remember it exactly. You contribute a non-article to our book.
Yes, you asked for 5,000, so I actually gave you 5,000 words. Sorry, and I can forgive everybody for not mentioning Australia earlier up in the slides, but yes, I've got a 双重身份, the day job and the night job. So firstly, allow me to congratulate Dr. Wang and Dr. Miao and the Center for China and Globalization for the launch of this important publication. Why is it important? I think it's been mentioned a few times, including by Ben and the earlier speakers, because the perspectives of foreign business leaders have been relatively muted amidst commentary about geopolitics, national security, human rights, regulatory crackdowns, and a host of other issues. But business leaders have an important role to play in providing information about the benefits of trade and investment in China, as Mr. Allen said earlier. The economic consequences must be properly considered as the boundaries between collaboration, competition, and rivalry are redrawn. This publication makes an important contribution in allowing those important perspectives of foreign businesses operating in China to be heard. Now, I wrote my long article about a year ago. Up until that time, to my knowledge, there was mainstream international news media hadn't featured any substantive discussion about the business opportunities for foreign companies during the period of the 14th five-year plan. And that was a lot different than what I remembered was the case at the time of leading up to the release and finalization of the 13th five-year plan. And in contrast, 1 year ago, we looked at foreign holdings of onshore Chinese equities had increased significantly in 2020. And that trend continued since then, despite market volatility and regulatory crackdowns. Up to the last September, Chinese equities held by foreigners were at a record level of 1.77 trillion yuan, which is a 40% increase over the year. A headline from the Australian Financial Review last April sums the sentiment quite well. This is the headline: forget politics. Foreign investors are flocking to China. Foreign capital is pouring into China at record rates as investors ignore geopolitical tensions in their search for yield. So this is the background against which I decided to write an article about the opportunities which foreign companies have to invest in and benefit from development trends in China. In my article, I talk about 5 reasons why I think China will continue to present opportunities over the 5-year plan period. Briefly, they are market size. As mentioned, Craig mentioned earlier, for many sectors, the size of the market in China means that MNCs can't be leaders without being successful in China. And that phenomenon is only going to continue as China continues to grow and innovate at pace. Second, innovation. MNCs need to participate in innovative development in China to stay competitive in China and in other markets around the world, with China offering scale, cost, and speed advantages for developing and commercializing new technologies and business models. To be successful, as we all know, MNCs need to be agile and innovate at China speed. 3, foreign investment will continue to play an important role with opportunities relating to industry upgrading through supply of advanced technologies, satisfying the demand of Chinese consumers, and supporting China's transition to an innovation-intensive, consumer-led economy. 4, of course, the policies the Chinese government has enacted and will enact to catalyze foreign investment into the sectors and the geographies that need it most, and to encourage further localization of value chains. And finally, efforts to facilitate and reduce the cost of cross-border trade through free trade agreements and actions to promote high-quality BRI development, increase the attractiveness of using China as a bridge and headquarters from which to expand to and invest in markets across Asia. Of course, the creation of a highly integrated market through the implementation of RCEP will be positive for FDI, both from within the region, but also from outside the region. The article goes on to look at opportunities briefly in 5 areas around Belt and Road projects, with priority being given to cooperation in digital, green, and health-related projects, around digital technologies, with the real economy helping transition traditional industries to upgrade and fostering the emergence of new industries. Around international cooperation in China's transition to a green, low-carbon economy in areas relating to provision of financing, technology, and advisory services. Around improving the quality and accessibility to public services, including education, medical services. We've got Roberta here from UFH, and elderly care. and opportunities around the continued opening of the banking, securities, insurance, funds and futures sectors, and the steps that are being taken to increase connectivity of capital markets. I'm happy to see the encouraging progress that's been made over the years since I finished the article. But one of the key points I make at the end is that for the first time in recent memory, a bigger challenge faced by MNCs is not the lack of opportunities in China, but rather the surge in misunderstanding and negative sentiment towards China in many countries, and the impact that's having on attitudes and decision-making by governments and companies. The ongoing travel restrictions, while I agree with what Jorge said, the ongoing travel restrictions are indeed exacerbating that phenomenon. I think Ben mentioned it as well in his comments. In addition to helping with attracting and retaining expatriate staff, the earlier resumption of business travel to and from China will be an important step in helping to bridge the information gap with head office decision makers and other important stakeholders, including politicians and academics. Toxic atmospherics in some markets are leading to the attribution of higher risk to China investments by some investors. Greater China exposure isn't necessarily viewed in the same positive way as it once was. And that's ironic considering the way that global investors are piling in to increase their holdings of onshore Chinese stocks. You asked me to say something about Australia, so I will very briefly. In Australia, it's heartening to see some companies cautiously poking their heads above the parapet to defend the benefits of investing in China. Only yesterday, the Australian Financial Review had an article about Cochlear's strategy in China. Let me just mention a few extracts. According to the CEO, relations between Cochlear and the Chinese government have never been better. We've had very strong local support from the city and provincial level governments in China, both in terms of helping us to establish the factory and getting all the necessary licenses. We have very good support in doing ongoing clinical research in China to help firms deliver hearing care in a more expansive and effective way. This is important. Medical device companies that have relied solely on imports into China have struggled to retain their market share, whereas companies that manufacture locally have done a better job succeeding over time. The article concludes with a key message that there's a strategic shift occurring in Australian business relations with China as companies deepen their government relationships and set up their capital investment in Chinese-based facilities. Now, while we're not seeing that happening universally across our membership base yet, it's certainly very good advice. So in conclusion, as was the case with companies that invested early in China's reform and opening up, I believe that opportunity will still reward early movers that are able to balance the different expectations of national governments and communities towards issues such as national security, economic growth, competitiveness, local job opportunities, and resilience and sustainable development on the one hand, with aligning their value proposition and business strategies in China with the goals and economic and social priorities in the 14th Five-Year Plan. I'm also cautiously optimistic that international cooperation in tackling climate change will see more foreign investment in China and more green partnerships with Chinese companies in China and in developed and developing countries around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barber, for your views and advice. Now it's time for Ms. Roberta Lipson, founder and CEO of the United Family Hospital. Welcome.
Thank you so much. And thank you to Dr. Wang and Dr. Miao for the invitation. And congratulations on the publication of this excellent book. And following the great macro view from the US, from Australia, from the EU on the transitional opportunities, I'd like to give the view from the increasingly important healthcare sector from one company's perspective. So on the surface, it's been looking like a very tough environment for us, full of pitfalls for business in general in China and around the world. COVID's brought many disruptions, and China bemoans the economic and social burdens of an aging society. It also faces the ongoing challenges of environmental concerns. But actually, we found that all of these threats are also opportunities and value drivers for our company. During the post-COVID transitional period leading up to the two sessions, we at United Family Healthcare are focused on three big drivers of business opportunity. One, China's changing demographics. Two, the opportunities of digitization of business and services. And three, structured pursuit of ESGs as a driver of value. In the interests of time, I'll only speak about the first two, but I hope that in the future we'll have an opportunity to dive into the third topic. China officially became an aging society in 1999 when the number of aged people 60 or above reached 131 million and crossed the international aging population threshold of 10%. According to the results of China's recent census published last year, the number of people aged 60 or above was 264 million, accounting for almost 20% of the total population. However, China will see an even more rapid growth of its graying population and an even more significant transition in the population age structure starting from the year 2023, when about 10 million people will join the elderly population every year for the next few years from then on. In fact, senior citizens are likely to account for over 30% of China's total population by 2036. These very facts have motivated consumers starting as young as age 40 to seek ways of maintaining good health into their senior years. And recent scientific developments will allow us to begin offering services that will not only prolong our patients' health span, but potentially also their lifespan. This should be great news to the Chinese government, although they seem very concerned about it. Rather than being focused only on the burden of the growing age population, we can also help to keep people healthy and productive for much longer. The demographic change also presents opportunities in treating the traditional diseases of old age, increased demand for elder care, as well as improved hospice care, as well as long-term care. Partially due to concerns of an aging population, and also partially due to the increased awareness brought on by the COVID epidemic, health insurance sales have increased by a CAGR of over 30% in the past 5 years. But even so, penetration is still very, very low, which will allow us to project continued high growth for the foreseeable future. On the other end of the demographic spectrum is the low birth rate. The birth rate in 2021 hit an all-time low, with 10.6 million births, just enough to cover the number of deaths in this year. But the persistent downward trend is even more alarming, with 2022 marking a birth rate 11% lower than 2020, and 2020 18% lower than in 2019. In response, China amended its family planning policies to allow for 3-children families. And last week, Beijing government announced its plan to pay for fertility services. This opens a great opportunity for IVF as well as related pharmaceuticals and supplements. For policy advice related to the above issues, I'd suggest that social health insurance reimbursement be expanded to include prevention services and chronic disease management, in addition to acute disease coverage, and that incentives be given to encourage service providers to enter related healthcare and elder care and long-term care spaces. I also suggest that government policies related to insurance products be liberalized, including allowing companies greater latitude for tax exemptions for employee health benefits. In addition, Further Social Security could be provided for those elders who aren't sufficiently covered under current pension arrangements. Finally, I'd encourage greater liberalization of the family planning policies, allowing unmarried women to freeze their eggs, allowing for fertility until later in life. On digitalization, we have seen, again, as a result of COVID, an acceleration of the already existing trend of consumers of all ages being increasingly receptive to digital and online services. This has given us at United Family the opportunity to bring more services online and allowed us to reach populations not only in the 5 cities where we have brick and mortar hospitals and clinics, but to patients across the whole country. Clarification of regulations which encourage online medical services have allowed us to launch our officially licensed internet hospital, bringing convenient online consultations into the homes, offices, and factories of our customers. At the same time, we are restricted from internationalizing this service due to the limitations of the cybersecurity laws. This online capability could also allow for greater collaboration internationally in clinical research. Unfortunately, opportunities for medical research collaboration have been limited by the ambiguities of the human genetics material law. China is not alone in facing demographic, cybersecurity, and environmental problems. It's also not alone in the need to see the end of the COVID epidemic and be prepared for the next potential outbreak. Being open to closer collaboration internationally and re-engaging on the government, science, trade, and people-to-people front will benefit everyone. And so I thank CCG for the work that you're doing in this area, and we hope to continue to be able to contribute. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Lipson. Thank you for your voice from industry. Now I want to invite another voice from industry, Mr. Leng Yang, Executive Vice President of Daimler Greater China, to share his views and insights.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Leng Yang from Daimler. Many thanks to CCG for having me here today. Firstly, I want to congratulate the release of the book, Transition and Opportunity. It contains authentic views from senior representatives from MNC companies, foreign trade chambers, and important topic based on their own China experiences and reflections. I trust this book will provide useful reference to better understand China's business landscape and future perspective. Coming from automotive industry and speaking of the post-pandemic era, we believe that opportunities remain, especially when China has started to shift its governance priorities from growth to balancing growth and sustainability. Mercedes-Benz is growing in China, with China, and we remain confident in China's growth potentials in the years to come. In 2021, despite COVID-19 and other major challenges, China has managed to achieve an average GDP growth rate of over 8.1%. It's not a surprise that China is maintaining its position of the world's most important market for premium car brands. Another major highlight is China's fast-growing new energy vehicle market. With a total sales volume of 3 million units, last year, China's NEV sales have more than doubled in comparison to 2020. This development will gain further momentum due to the high quality development concept set in China's 14th five-year plan and the carbon neutrality target by 2060. Mercedes-Benz has also started to take a holistic approach to reduce carbon emission along all stages of the automotive value chain, from technical development to production to service life and recycling. Comparing with other markets, Chinese customers here are more open to new technologies. More than 80% of Chinese customers would trust in a fully autonomous vehicle. We expect to see in China, more cars that are autonomous and connected in the near future. With regard to the newly released data security laws and regulations in China, we would like to work much more closer with the relevant authorities here for the common goal of ensuring data safety and promoting autonomous innovation, as well as international cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. And now is our photo time. I hope to invite all our guests to take a group photo together. Photographers, ready? Yeah, come on to take a group photo. For the second half of today's event, we will begin our roundtable discussion. I will invite Dr. Miao Lu, the book editor, to moderate this discussion. We hope to explore deeply into this book. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to CCG. I'm a Secretary General of Center for China and Globalization, also the editor of the new book, Transition and Opportunity, and this China and Globalization book series. I'm pleased and honored to be hosting this roundtable discussion today after so many distinguished guest speeches. We also including some of the contributors of this book on the roundtable, of course, including the business executives and the leading experts in public affairs, embassy officials, and the representatives from Chamber of Commerce. Topics of discussion today will be centered around the operation realities and the market environment around the multinational companies face in China policies that have significant impacts on multinational companies and the opportunities and the challenges for them in different sectors in China. We know that the two sessions is coming. This is a significant political issue, political event for Chinese market and China. So this roundtable aims to gather opinions and advances from our experts and will serve as the source of policy advisors to advance the future of development for multinationals company in China. CCG is a think tank. We would like to gather those opinions and recommendations for Chinese government. As a gentle reminder, please limit your opinions within 2 to 3 minutes. The time is limited, so sorry. But today we invited so many distinguished guests from industries, from Chamber of Commerce. Firstly, I would like to invite Gloria Xu. She is the Vice Chair of AmCham China. Yeah, please.
Oh, thank you, Mabel, for the opportunity, and also huge congratulations to CCG for publishing this very important and also impactful book. As York and several of our colleagues mentioned just in the keynote speeches, the voice of the business community has been relatively mute for quite some time. So it is really very important for CCG as a leading independent think tank to partner with such a respected publisher, Springer Nature, really to get the business voice loud and clear up there, so that people, especially with all these political headwinds, people understand that how important those stable and long-term business relationship is to our different communities, including the Chinese market, including that of the United States, and including that of a lot of other countries. I'm here not speak on behalf of the AmCham China, but on behalf of my corporate capacity. Recently I just joined a new company called Albemarle. Albemarle is in the lithium and other specialty chemical industry, and it has a huge kind of growth projects plans for China, and that is in line with China's own development trend, especially as Lynch mentioned, the huge growth of the electrical vehicle market. So I think that the mega trends in China, basically the pursuit of a more low carbon and a sustainable development path, has created a lot of opportunities for relatively newcomers like us. And of course, we are a U.S. company and we are a resource-heavy company, but China is the biggest market. So I would like for us to capture the opportunity, I would like to borrow a title from the book, which is written actually by AmCham Chair Emeritus Tim Stratford. So we need candor, we need wisdom, and also need persistence to navigate the very complicated situations, business situations, political situations, and to really capture the growth opportunities. But I think, us, as a lot of American companies and lots of foreign companies, we would like to hang in here. We would like to, do our best to help forge a stable and a long-term business relationship. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for CCG's invitation. I flipped through the book. It's a very quality as well as timely publication, and my own observation is that in addition to those transition factors outlined by some of the authors as well as speakers just now, like COVID-19 control and the geopolitical tensions, I would say there is a unique driving factor of China's economic transition towards the high quality development. It's the digital economy and 5G, which have led to increasing opportunities for multinationals like Qualcomm. We all know that Chinese government has established digital economy as one of the key development strategies for the 14th Five-Year Plan. And actually President himself has also, hosted a Politburo study session, in last November, in order to, better drive the healthy development of the digital economy. And also 5G, as well as one of the key new infrastructures, back to year 2019. So the digital enabled COVID-19 measures have been driving the robust development of digital economy, like mobile shopping, remote learning, online entertainment, and smart medical treatment. Like what Roberta highlighted in her speech. Digitalization is one of the key opportunities facing her industry and her hospital, and if regulated properly, can further her hospitals' online capabilities and therefore quality services to their patients. Also the just concluded the Beijing Winter Olympics, has adopted over 212 new technologies, including AI, VR, AI, 8K broadcasting. Some of them are primarily driven by 5G technologies. So as far as Qualcomm is concerned, we are the innovator and the contributor of 5G technologies and the patent technologies. And we provide these leading technologies to our Chinese partners to enable them to be more competitive at both home and abroad markets, therefore making win-win outcomes for Qualcomm's ecosystem partners in China. So as China has been driving the dual circulation strategy over the past years, the opportunities for Qualcomm is not limited to China market itself, but also the overseas expansions by our Chinese partners. On daily basis, we have been facing increasing demands from our Chinese partners about how to better support them in their overseas expansion, not only for the sake of the market, but also for the sake of the adoption of new technologies, new ideas, and new models. Yeah. So my overall remarks is that the transition opportunity for multinational like Qualcomm is not only limited to China itself, but also can be expanded to overseas market. Yeah, thank you.
Also join our discussion. First, I would like to invite Mr. Martin Miller, who is the chairman at Swiss Chinese Commerce. Also,
thank you very much for having me here today and for giving me the opportunity to write the part of the book, and I think it's a very well put. You have put it in a very good way to have the business leaders and organizations and people from like KPMG and researchers. I think it's very valuable book. So I think I've realized, especially during COVID pandemic, that now it's time for us, the business leaders, the organizations, to have a voice in two ways, internal and external. You know, I suffer a lot when I read the Western media, because what I experience in China, what I learn from our member companies, we have more than 1,000 Swiss companies active here in mainland China. The feedback from them is completely different from what I read in the Western media. The journalists, they cannot travel to China. They cannot really experience. They just collect their information from, I don't know which sources. I don't talk about those sources, but also now it's really time to externally to have a voice of the business community, international business community, and the international business leaders here in China to tell people around the world what's really going on here. It's not enough just to have internal meetings. We also have to do PR now in our countries, around the world, talking to journalists and media. And of course, in China itself, as Jörg Wuttke has mentioned, to talk to policymakers. I mean, several hundred proposal of the EU JAM is really something very valuable. And I hope it will be heard and implemented in new plans. Switzerland is famous for being neutral. So a few weeks ago, some organizations have chosen Switzerland to publish a book, a black book about China. I don't know if you have heard about it, but don't read it, otherwise you get depressed. It's the collection of all the sins that the Chinese government has maybe done or maybe not done during the last 40, 50 years. But it was published a few weeks ago. And people who don't have access directly to information from within China, of course, they trust, they believe that this is China. And so that's why we have to really raise the voice, make us heard. And this book comes really at the right time. And thank you, both of you and all of you, for your contribution.
Thank you, Martin. There's another contributor of a new book is Miss Marinda Wang, who is the managing director of ETS China. It's your turn.
Thank you for the invitation from CCG. And the English testing industry is actually a very niche market compared to other industry. But as everyone is aware, for the last year, the education industry has experienced a lot of great changes in China. So for ETS, we have a 40 years partnership with China, and China remains to be the largest TOEFL and the second largest GRE market globally. And we have experienced and promoted the international education in China for the past 4 decades. But looking forward, we are indeed experiencing a lot of opportunities, but more coming from the challenges. The first is from the government policies about the double reduction, but that was not too relevant to the international education. So our challenges mainly comes from the pandemic. So a lot of Chinese students, they prefer to study locally. And so they may not choose to go to international school or go overseas for study. So that was quite a big challenge and change for the global education industry. And the second is also related to the pandemic, because our tests were mostly delivered face-to-face in a public testing center. But because of the pandemic, we have to shift all the testing from the physical testing center to online. So we developed the home testing. And definitely this will also comes with some risks and also with opportunities. But we do see a lot of business opportunities, coming from the new government context. So first is that China still encourage the opening up for education and encourage the building of international talents for China students. So we have to reposition us not only as a service provider for helping Chinese students to go overseas, but also we position us as a bridge for Chinese students to becoming international talents. The second opportunity comes from the universities. We do see China still encourages a lot of Sino-US or Sino-UK education programs in a lot of higher education sectors. So we can, as ETS is the largest institution for research and the testing development, we can definitely contribute to helping building and design the curriculum and also helping with the teacher training. And the third opportunities come from some regional policies, for example, like Hainan, because for Hainan, the government encourages universities to open campuses in Hainan and also to attract more talents. They are building more international schools for the city, for the local citizens. So we do see there was still needs from some regions, especially for some more internationalized cities like Beijing, Shanghai, and some new regions like Hainan. So we will also embrace those business opportunities by working more closely with government and also through some support from think tanks like CCG. So my overall comments is that we do experience more challenges, but we do see a lot of new opportunities from some very China-centered niche markets. So looking forward, we will continue the journey with students and the teachers in China, just as we have for the last 40 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Marinda. ETS is also the representative of the foreign service provider in China. So you mentioned some opportunities and challenges, but most of them are opportunities, can have our business landscape bigger and bigger. Thank you very much. We also invited another contributor of this book is Mr. Joseph Cash. He is also the policy analyst of China Britain Business Council from CBBC. Welcome you. It's your turn.
Thank you. And Dr. Wang, Dr. Miao, it's a pleasure to contribute to this book. My chapter, the role of UK companies in the multilateral trade frameworks of the Asia Pacific, trying to take trade with China from a different angle. I think, obviously, these bilateral trade organizations that are well represented in the room today, we have a tendency to view our companies' trade with China bilaterally. But of course, the UK and French, Australian, American companies, they're not only in China, they're in Singapore, they're in other markets of the Asia Pacific region. And it's interesting that there are more and more free trade arrangements in the Asia Pacific region that companies can take advantage of. If you are a UK company with an invested presence in Singapore, you can use the terms of these agreements to move staff, move data, move capital around the region. And it's a very new phenomenon. These trade deals have really come into their own in the last 5 years. And China has been one of the kind of leaders in pursuing that move towards multilateralism in the Asia Pacific. I mean, it's impressive. In the last 10 years, I think China has negotiated 5 FTAs, which is not a small feat. An FTA is really hard to negotiate. It also has managed to retain a deputy director general at the World Trade Organization. So it shows real intent in pursuing this move towards multilateralism. Now, of course, I'm aware that there are questions, concerns. People say, well, how can China expect to accede to the CPTPP? It's some of the most liberal, forward-thinking trade policy on offer. There would have to be a lot of reform on China's side. It would have to open its markets far wider. If you think back to when the EU-China CAI was first, agreed in principle and, negotiated, there were very similar clauses there where China said it was going to open its markets further. So to my mind, China has now twice said that it plans to introduce reforms to open its market to make it more accessible to foreign business. And, these are big negotiations. So you wouldn't say that unless you were thinking about making such reforms. So I think the future for China and these multilateral frameworks is bright. And I think UK, Australian, American companies, they stand to gain as well. From the UK side, obviously, British business welcomed China's application to join the CPTPP. The UK hopes to be a member of CPTPP alongside it. And also the UK will probably look to join the RCEP as well. So that's the UK perspective. But I think that there are parallels that can be drawn for companies, whichever market they're from. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. You mentioned CPTPP, and China right now announced would like to join CPTPP as well. Yes, CCG have done a lot of work on this and research on China's accession of CPTPP. I think that is a higher level of international business and international trade mechanism. It's a trend for all our global market. And next, we would like to invite our representative from USCBC, Mr. Matthew McGrilling.
Thank you very much, Mabel, to Dr. Wang Huiyao and to the Center for China and Globalization for putting together a book on such an important topic that, frankly, so many speakers today have underscored the importance of. It's really timely and necessary. And thank you, of course, for inviting our President Craig Allen to not only contribute, but to speak here today. And so I don't want to duplicate too many of his remarks because I think he talked about the status of U.S.-China relations, the commercial relationship, and MNCs in China, specifically American MNCs in China, and the importance of all that. So he did a great job. I would underscore a little bit about what Craig did mention, I think is important to cover, is that most facets of the U.S.-China relationship are fairly strained today, especially on the political side of the relationship. And frankly, the state of bilateral relations has not changed significantly, spanning across now 2 U.S. administrations and changes to control of U.S. Congress since really the trade war began 4 or 5 years ago. U.S. policy towards China frames the relationship as fiercely competitive. Most of the previous administration's policies towards China remain in place, and some strategic efforts are underway. Frankly, many are underway to multilateralize a lot of that into various policy forums and frameworks, signaling a long-term systemic competition between the U.S. and China. I will say this administration has been clear that they want to manage that competition responsibly. I think that's an important signal. And similarly, China's policies toward the U.S. have not shifted significantly over the past few years. China's positions also reflect an effort to manage competition responsibly with the U.S. by not initiating overt or provocative retaliation for many actions so far. So while we know many longstanding policy challenges still remain, and there are efforts to pursue self-reliance in certain areas while promoting domestic companies or little giants, it's created somewhat of a chicken and egg dilemma between the US and China, where one side accuses the other of being protectionist, the other side blaming the policies of the other, and thus inducing them to respond. Regardless of our starting point, the fact remains that today is frankly probably the most legally complex period for American multinationals operating in China in recent memory. For the US-China Business Council, simply put, our message or our purpose is to create a level playing field for foreign companies, American companies, in China, promoting a healthy, stable US-China commercial relationship. And as Craig noted in his remarks, trade and investment in China is good for both the US economy, US workers, and US households. There's ample amount of data to support that. A healthy commercial relationship means more globally competitive companies. Companies innovate not only outside of China, at headquarters in the US, but also, of course, inside China. So bringing that innovation from the US to China and China to the world is good for all of us. China is the top 5 export market for 45 out of 50 states in America. That means we're selling more than just soybeans and aircraft and microchips to China. In fact, China's the top 3 export destination for many US states, behind only our NAFTA trading partners, Mexico and Canada. The trade and investment is mutually beneficial, of course. This means a report from Hurin recently found that the top 100 foreign companies in China contribute at least 6% of China's total GDP, just 100 companies. This means greater access to innovative products and technologies in China. This means greater employment, tax contribution, and supply chain and value chain upgrading. And this means repatriation of profits to shareholders in the US and elsewhere. So what we have is a robust and intertwined ecosystem of capital, technology, goods, and services that are underpinning our relationship despite talks of decoupling intentions. As I look ahead in what is sure to be a political year in both the US and China, I see many challenges. I also see opportunities. First, I think there are very busy political agendas for both countries this year, which hopefully can mean that both are more focused on domestic issues, which will create some breathing room and some needed stability for at least the rest of this year. I do see a challenging legislative agenda in the United States in Congress that has a chance to complicate things further on labor, supply chain, and investment and capital controls. I also see a mix of longstanding policy concerns here in China related to market access, domestic preference, some of the other areas that Craig mentioned. But perhaps most importantly, and this has been underscored by several speakers so far, I see an increasing and growing gap on views of China between US-based headquarters and China-based operations for our members. The gap has always existed. We have to recognize that gap has always been there, but it has no doubt been exacerbated by COVID travel restrictions. The challenge of all this is that the impacts will not necessarily be felt today. There are certain impacts felt today, but over the long-term horizon, when it comes to strategic business decisions, I do see impediments to a bettering of relations. Despite the challenges and the news flow that we constantly see talking about the challenges in the relationship, it's easy to lose sight of the opportunities. So I'll just talk very, very briefly. USCBC continues to push forward an agenda focused on finding areas for our business communities to work together and achieve breakthroughs in cooperation. We've established cooperative relationships and forums to support the public health system by focusing on cooperation related to commercial health insurance in China. We're focusing on sustainability and decarbonization initiatives that promote positive policy recommendations to the Chinese government that support 2030, 2060 goals. And of course, ongoing business community engagement with the Chinese government and policymakers to talk about areas of shared opportunity and concern. The American business community has made its voice and views very clear on the importance of US-China relations and their commitment to both markets. We will continue supporting commercial relations and are happy to have partners like CCG and all of the companies that are in the room today supporting us and working towards this shared goal together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you very much. And today we have 2 representatives from USCBC. Just now is Matthew, and before you is Craig Allen from US. Thank you very much. As US-China relation is very important, the most important bilateral relation in the world. And the business circle and Chamber of Commerce are very important power and force for our bilateral relationship. Thank you very much. Next, we would like to invite the representative from EU Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Giorgio Giacconi, Vice President of EU Chamber of Commerce. Thank you. Yeah, it's your floor.
Thank you, Dr. Wang and Dr. Miao. Also, not only USBC is overrepresented, also European Chamber of Commerce is overrepresented with Jorge that contributed and myself. I want just to, first of all, congratulate for the quality of the content and the quality of the contributors of this book. I'm really sorry that probably it came a bit late, the publication, after President Xi took the pledge of to get carbon neutral by 2060, and I've seen in the book that the carbon neutrality has been appear 7 times in the book. Probably, if it will be published in a few months, it would contain hundreds of this. What I am meaning. And this is a suggestion for what and the CCG could deepen further in the next months, where European Chamber, of course, I would like to contribute is about the perspective of how carbon neutrality pledges in the world, in China, in Europe, in US, in Japan, will change the global trading relationship, the economic models, and how the carbon neutrality pledge could be the lever for also driving the China reforms. We at European Chamber are carrying out a very thorough study, survey across our members, interviews for understanding how the carbon neutrality could change the business model in China, how ESG in China is impacting the global ESG, and what is the global outlook. Of course, I cannot anticipate the results, but the concern can be summarized in, first, also carbon neutrality is going to be politicized. As the Olympic Games, and as we have seen the outcome of the COP26 has been politicized and has been an embarrassing outcome where the European business in China and outside China would not benefit from the big business opportunity coming from this new perspective. The second, I mean, the carbon neutrality and decarbonization is the only ground where all the powers find and agree they must cooperate. Mr. Kerry came to Shanghai talking of that. Mr. Borrell and Mr. Timmermans from European Commission declared that this is the only topic where Europe and China agrees 100%. The Euro-China summit in April is going to have a big part of this. And we, as business community, really expect this topic is going to be the one where all the tensions, all the politicization of business will be accommodated. So, for concluding, I hope CCG will take this as an opportunity for the fourth book. And of course, I take already the commitments on behalf of our chamber to provide the full cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Giacconi. And we also invite some representative from Japan, Mr. Hiro Kawabushi from Embassy of Japan. He's the counselor of Embassy of Japan. If you would like to say some words, yeah.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure. It is an honor to be here, celebrating your publishing book. Honestly speaking, as an embassy guy, only me from not only Japan but also other countries. So it's a very difficult position from the point of view.
Wait.
Anyway, I would like to comment a little bit confusing situation happening between Japan and China. Honestly speaking, Japanese government just now we are pushing investment and trade between China and Japan, and but there is so many misunderstanding information from media. So Japanese companies, Japanese industry is feeling kind of fear to come or to trade between China. So just now, our many responsibility to be here is to persuade Japanese industry there is a very good opportunity to do business in here, such as a US company or EU companies. But several information from media is correct. That is especially industrial policy from Chinese government. It means there is some contradiction from contradiction of policy from the point of industry policy. It is one hand, Chinese government said open and development Chinese market from inviting many companies, many industry from overseas. But on the other hand, especially MIIT, they are pushing Go Chanfa policy. Go Chanfa policy. If the Go Chanfa means just domestic production policy, is okay. But many Japanese industry and government, we are feeling this Go Chanfa policy is almost nationalization policy. Especially we Japanese government, we respect to establish a regional supply chain between China and Japan. However, just now, many Chinese policy and many Chinese Gentsu Famian, they are promoting just pushing Chinese company to purchase all of technology from Japanese industry. Especially, they are realizing Chinese industry are lacking the technology, especially from the material or parts or manufacturing machines. This kind of technology, very detailed technology. But they know Japanese industry has this kind of technology, so they are very keen to looking for Japanese technology. So if Chinese government would like to succeed to expand Chinese impact to all over the world, they should how to say, be transparent, to be transparent, to have transparency. And also the point is the word of national security. Of course, such as U.S. Business Council guy, he already mentioned about the national security problem. Not only U.S. but also China. Their definition of national security is too broad and non-transparency. So it is difficult for Japanese industry to do business in China. So we hope CCG to explain to Chinese government and the Chinese Communist Party the most important role is to how to say, to identify what is national security. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hiro. He used to be the representative of Japan External Trade Organization. So he also represent the trade circle in China before. Thank you very much for your opinions. Next, we would like to invite CCG's old friend, Stephen Lynch, who is the Managing Director of Britain Chamber of Commerce in China.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak, and congratulations on the book launch today. Just on the conversation of realities of doing business in China, I'll take a British Chamber of Commerce in China perspective. I think going on from what Vaughan said, China has not stood still in the last 40 years of opening up and reform, and we can see that there's so many opportunities. The role of the Chamber is to kind of give that balanced, nuanced perspective, both to the Chinese authorities here as well as to the UK authorities back in the UK. So just recently we produced a sentiment survey pulsing British businesses' views and perspectives here in China. And it's filled with these nuances. It's filled with this balance. So on the very positive, we're seeing British businesses more optimistic than the year before, which is fantastic. Maybe not surprisingly due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but again, that's a very positive move. We're also seeing that being backed up by investment. We're seeing more investment from the major multinational companies. Very few companies are actually pulling out of China. So the optimism is being backed up by investment. And that's largely due to the market potential. 82% of businesses say it's market potential, it's market size. One thing I also think is quite interesting, if we were to have this conversation 20 years ago, we'd just be seeing British businesses in Beijing and Shanghai, but we're actually seeing businesses headquartered all over the country. The second and third tier cities having huge potential. We can see that through tech and innovation, healthcare, professional services, especially down in the Greater Bay Area. However, on the other side, the nuance of this we are seeing issues and we're seeing concerns. 65% of businesses have said it's got harder to do business in China. Now, when we consider how tough the year was last year of COVID, 65% of businesses have said it's got harder to do business. And that's largely due to COVID restrictions, regulations, implementations of regulations, but also travel. One thing to highlight is the UK still does not have direct flights with China. And that is causing a significant issue for business leaders, but also personally. Now, one of the things I'd just like to pick up on that is why is that travel such an issue? Well, we can't communicate, we can't engage with China if we don't have that people-to-people cultural exchange. One of the things to highlight is university courses studying Chinese and looking at Chinese in the UK has dropped significantly in the last 2 or 3 years, and that will continue to drop if we cannot come and engage with China. Again, not a positive trend moving forward. So again, for us, the people-to-people cultural engagement is really important. And again, why? Because the people who come, study, work here are advocates for China. They become the business leaders in China. If you look 20, 30 years ago, the people who study Chinese, they're now the ambassadors, they are now the business leaders. So again, that people-to-people cultural engagement is absolutely critical. I suppose also just looking forward, one of the biggest opportunities that my colleague from the European Chamber mentioned is China's 30-60 net zero plan. And again, we all collectively see the importance and the area of engagement for that. But sustainability net zero is not an island. It cannot just operate alone. We need bilateral, we need multilateral engagement around that to really hit these targets. And again, that comes back down to engagement. So from the British business perspective, we call for more engagement, not less engagement with China. And I'm really, really pleased to see we've seen some high-level dialogues between the UK. We've seen some high-level dialogues with China and other countries. And we look forward in 2022 to more bilateral and multilateral engagement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's quite impressive what you mentioned is regarding to the people-to-people exchanges, like Roberta just now in her speech and some of the other panelists' discussions mentioned the people-to-people exchange. We look forward, we will find that for our new generation, next generation, the people-to-people engagement is quite important, more and more important. Thank you so much. And next, we would like to invite some representatives from industry. Ms. Dong Ruiping as from Urban Life China. She is a vice president of Urban Life China, also a CCG senior council member. It's your turn.
Thank you, Dr. Miao. First of all, it's a pleasure to present today, and also congratulations to CCG for publishing this important book. Actually, I would like to talk from two directions. One, based on the title of this book, Opportunities. We're in the health food industry. We see tremendously opportunities in the business, especially because of the pandemic, the people really care about their health, and they're looking for solutions and consumption of healthy food. In addition, I think the healthy aging is also a topic for the society, and it provides a good opportunity for businesses of Herbalife. In addition, I think the younger generation, especially Gen Z, they're also looking for personalized nutrition, etc. So I think there are great opportunities for us to develop in China. From the transition point of view, I think because of the pandemic, and also because of the the development of the e-commerce, we see there are changes in the purchasing habits of the customers. So I think this also bring some challenges to our business, and as Herbalife, we realize the change and also the challenges that we invested a lot in digitalization in the past several years, and we hope that we can serve our customers better. I think on the other hand, then platform like CCG, like the chambers, that we can actually promote the exchanges between the regulators, especially on policy making between the two countries, and I mean U.S., China, and maybe some other countries. We hope that through those communication that there are more opportunities for the Chinese policymakers to provide the industry some stable expectation in new policies, etc. So I think that's our expectation, and wish that we can work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we would like to invite the representative from IBM, Ms. Agnes Cui, who is the Vice President of Government Affairs of IBM. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Miao and Dr. Wang, for your invitation to this important event today, and congratulations on the book launch. It's a really important publication in this very special transitional period. I think for GR professionals, we carry a mission of telling a good China story to our headquarters and also vice versa, right? So I think this book will serve the purpose of bridging the gaps of understanding about China, and help making contributions to the to the improvement of bilateral relations. So for IBM, just a quick introduction, because we have been undergoing several times of transformation. Now, what we have two major business lines. One is IBM Consulting. In this regard, we are peers with KPMG, right? And we also provide technology in the hybrid cloud and AI space. So without further repeating what the speaker said about the opportunities in China, I just want to say that as MNCs, because we are optimistic about the China's future, we should think and act like a partner. Think about how we can contribute to China's national goals or the major national strategies. There are three aspects I'm thinking that we can consider to help China achieve its goals. One is technology leadership. For MNCs who operate in China for years, we all have our technology, leading technology in certain industry. That's how we establish ourselves here. So as President Xi Jinping said, we want to make China a market for the world, shared by all, right? So usually MNCs provide the world-class innovative products to China. So definitely, given the size and the potential of the market, there are huge opportunities for that. And also, I think the key here is whether and how we can remain that technology advantage, given the faster rising of the local industry. In another aspect, China is determined to building an innovative-driven economy. So this cannot be achieved by shutting the door, just doing everything by ourselves. It's totally economically impossible. So with this, it has to compete with strong players. If you want to become a tiger, you have to work with the tiger, learn from a tiger, then you become a tiger, right? You cannot just compete with inferior competitors. So in that regard, I think there's a lot for MNCs to do to help China in this regard, such as fostering fostering talents, incubate the startups. There are lots of opportunities if we look at the 14th five-year plan, especially at the regional level. Another opportunity lies in, for many Chinese companies, they do have the ambitions to go global. They want to be globally competitive, right? But it's very difficult. They need foreign companies to help them, for example, build a globally operable platforms. They also need MNCs to provide endorsement if they want to penetrate into global markets. They need our expertise to navigate through the regulatory complexities in different markets. So these are all the areas we can work with China in a more mutually beneficial way. I also want to talk about thought leadership. Sorry. So because we are also in the consulting business, for over the past few decades, we have helped so many Chinese companies, from high-tech companies like Huawei to traditional companies like China Resources, Wuliangye, with their digital transformation. So given the accumulated experiences, expertise in managing global presences, in supply chain management, in leadership training, there's a lot for MNCs to work with China in achieving, in developing its digital economy, in achieving its carbon neutrality goals. The last aspects I want to talk about is talent. So over the years, MNCs have contributed huge talent pools to China. I think everyone could see the trend, like in the past few years, lots of talent flow from MNCs to local Chinese companies. So when we have meetings with customers, like the Chinese companies, used to be our colleague, right? They are sitting on the other side of the table. So that's a good thing, right? The easier flow of talents. That's how we contribute to China's overall development and innovation as well. So especially in the digital economy era, there's a huge gap in China's digital talents. So what we can do is to figure out these gaps and figure out ways to work with China to fill such gaps. That's all I have to share. And thank CCG again for this excellent opportunity, and hopefully we can work with you more in the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Cui. Ms. Cui. Yeah. And next, we would like to invite another beautiful lady who is Liu Chang, Vice President of Corner Asia Pacific, which is a German company. I remember. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Miao. So first of all, congratulations to CCG on the publishing of this important and successful book. And then I'm really honored to be invited for today's discussion. So as is stated in the book, international business is a very critical contributor to the global economics, while MNCs are the key participants and representatives and contributors, drivers to the global economics. And as my company, as an example, in the rail industry, we are leading operators, suppliers in the rail industry, and we have participated, witnessed, and contributed to the really faster development of China's rail industry in the last 40 years, as well, beginning of the opening up of the China policy. And on the other hand, we really benefit a lot from this development and have a very stable development of our business. So how to keep this win-win situation together between China and MNCs in China? I think it's never been a one-way street. It requires joint efforts from different perspectives, including governments, MNCs in China, as well as think tanks like CCGs and chambers, all these important and influential powers. So from the government, we are looking forward to a continuous improved business environment in China, which could offer MNCs more, let us feel more secured and confident to continuous deep rooting in China and expand our investment in China. And on the other hand, from MNC is actually, as the name of the book, the transition and opportunities. The last transition we have seen that MNCs in China made is that the role of China. What do they think of China? What China means to them? I think that it takes some change from taking China purely as a market to a production base, then to a more value chain or system, and to currently it considers China as a strategic partner, like investing more functions in China, including R&D. And then in this way, the multinational companies proactively embrace the change in China. I used to work on a research on multinational companies in China, on their localization strategy and executions in China, how it impacts their own performance in China and the local economics in China. And based on the facts and the data we researched, we found out that actually the localization efforts of multinational companies in China benefits both its own performance as well as its global value chain, as well also to the local development. So the multinational companies will continuously seize the chance and handle the transition and seize the opportunities. This is what we can do in China, continuous being the bridge and continuous our efforts. And the other very important perspective is the efforts from the think tank like CCG, like make our voice heard of the outward from the government, and together with the chambers that we can make more contributions to the continuous success for us. So quoting a very popular sentence these days that together for a shared future. I'm looking forward to more cooperations with CCG and for a shared future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your great words. Yeah, next, actually, so far, there are two guests on our roundtable didn't speak. We would like to invite Mr. Robin Tall from Airbus. Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm very glad to attend this meeting. Airbus China CEO Mr. Xu contributed one article to this book. Even last year, despite the pandemic, Airbus also launched two new cooperation projects in China. We have a assembly line in Tianjin, and it will be expanding. It will producing more aircraft this year. And also we have another project which has been decided to be located in Chengdu. So it's about a full life cycle aircraft service. So maybe people have been used to meeting virtually online, but as some other speakers said, people-to-people meetings, people need to see each other in person. So we hope, and I'm very optimistic, cautiously optimistic, the day will come. The international flights will resume and then recover gradually to normal, maybe gradually in a few years. So we hope. Once again, I would like to use that sentence. Together for a shared future. I think the future will be bright. Okay. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cao, and thank you, your CEO contributor article in this great book. We hope our book have more readers in the future, as we had a great records on our other 3 books in English published by Springer Nature. And we have a few minutes to close. If there's other guests would like to end some points, it's your floor. And on our roundtable, anyone would like to say some words to end their points? If anybody says, okay. If there's no, we would like to say thank you so much for our great contributors of this book and our panelists discussions. We had a great lunch, and next maybe Shirley can mention some words.
Yes, and
thank you very much for our roundtable.
CCG prepared a large lunch for our guests, so it will be served very soon. Let's talk over the lunch. Yeah, talk freely.
We have prepared some light meals if you would like to enjoy. Thank you.
Right there.